Hello there. I was worried I wasn't going to get another video for several months, but turns out no. The Wood Elf book has been leaked, and the Honest Wargamer appears to have a sort of potato cam copy. So, sorry, Rob Symes, Val Heffelfinger of Squarebase. Go watch their video. It's quite interesting. I thought I'd do one where I rely on the potato cam rather than my historic approach of waiting till the actual book comes out. I might as well, do it early. Right, so they started off. Let's do a critique of their video. They started off by looking at the kindreds, which are quite interesting. Have they ever? Here we go. Some characters may belong to an altar kindred or a noble kindred. You can't belong to both. Benefits do not apply to a model's mount. Altar kindreds are wood elf nobles and mages only. And that's nobles and mages only. So, whatever. You can only select one anyway, so I really don't understand the differentiation between an altar kindred and a noble kindred, because from my reading, I couldn't see anywhere else in the book that restricts from what you can have. But anyway, you've got like little upgrades that you can give to your characters that are right. Overall, what do I think about the Wood Elf book? If this is all of the Wood Elf book, I think it adds some flavour, but it really doesn't do an awful lot to make. Excuse me for a sec. To make Wood Elves much better. But anyway, I'm going to go and start at the factions. Oh, there's a new Law of Magic as well, called the Law of the Wilds in here. There's some new units. Orion's back. He's I'm undecided on him. But anyway, let's go start at the factions. Where the bloody hell are they? Here's one. So there's two. There's Orion's Wild Hunt, and then there's the Host of Talsin. Talsin is like one of the more expansionist glades in Lothlorien, so I'm not surprised they've used Talzin as their kind of. It fits with the narrative for the time period that we're on. In that essentially the Wood Elves are basically at home, and the only time you're ever really going to face the Wood Elves outside of Lothlorien itself is if Talzin are essentially out and about doing a bit of invading. Or the Wild Hunt is doing wild hunty bits. So anyway, Talsin is. They've got this new Warden of Talsin. These are Warden of Talsin are quite cool. I quite like them. You're still allowed your spell weavers. You're still allowed your Glade Lord. You're allowed your Treeman Ancients. You're allowed the Shadow Dancer. You are not allowed the characters that you've been sort of barred from taking. Are for God's sakes. My head's just gone Deepwood Sentinel. It's not that at all. I don't even know what a Deepwood Sentinel is, but I don't know what game that's from. But yeah, you're just not allowed. What are they called? Way Watchers. In terms of your choices, the percentages are a bit weird. So your half characters, quarter core, half special, that's all standard. But then you're allowed up to a third can be spent on these bits, Treeman and War Dancers. It's a bit of an interesting list in the sense that you could quite conceivably do a fairly decent Forest Spirit heavy list with this, because you can obviously now take 3 Treeman, because I think they're 215, something like that. I did open a quick Wood Elf. Oh, for God's sakes. Yeah, so how much are they? They are 215. So in a 2,000 point, could you afford 3? 645. You could take 3 treatment. So there's that, and treatment are pretty good. They got toughness 6, 5 wounds, full plate armor, regen. So they got 4 up save, 5 up regen. That's all of that's pretty decent. They're reasonably survivable, and they've got the whole tree whack thing, which is a cool attack where just one of their attacks. So they've got 5, so they can do 1 tree whack attack and then 4 basically AP2. Oaken Fists are basically normal strength AP2, the typical monster attack. I think, yeah. But your tree whack, basically what that does is everybody. Sorry. It's decided to put the highlight over the text that I need. Nominate as a single model within the enemy unit target takes an initiative test. If it fails, takes D3 hits at strength 5, no armor save, which is pretty good. That's like a single hit. And this is once per turn during the combat phase. May use one of its attacks. I think this has to be at like normal initiative step. I don't think you can do it. I mean, it's not very well worded, but I think that's what that's supposed to be. Anyway, back to the Arcane Realms. So it's an interesting list. There's the thing that's missing, of course, are Wild Riders as well. There's none of them in here. So and Sisters of the Thorn are there, and you can have up to half on them. And again, Sisters of the Thorn, I still think are one of the best units that they've got in the Wood Elf roster, mainly because they've got a 4 at ward save. So it's Sisters of the Thorn are basically their kind of heavy cavalry. 4 at ward save is pretty good. Plus also the fact that they've got a bound spell. It's random now, but still, that's that's not bad. Especially as you can, pick a lord that's got. Can you actually? Am I making that up? I might be making that up. They're still pretty good because Deepwood Coven, Battle Magic or Elementalism. No, Battle Magic is Hammer Hand, isn't it? Is the signature, which actually, if you're going to use them as a combat unit, picking that's not a bad, because you get +2 to it. 2d3 strength 4 AP2. It's not terrible. Considering they're going to be striking first anyway. I don't know. They don't actually have strikes first, but they've got initiative for, Elves +1, 5 in the first round of combat, and then you got 3 for your charge. So they're probably striking first when they get the charge off. They're probably going to get the charge off because they've got movement 8 and move through cover and stuff. And, they've got poison attacks, and they've got these hand weapons and Blackbride javelins. And so they're not amazing in combat, but that might give them an extra... Anyway, I'm waffling now. But this is the army list. It's for Talzin. It's okay. What do you get if you go Talzin? You get to hate Beastmen, which is okay, but not brilliant because, well, I mean, you don't see Beastmen that often. They can... Treatment Ancients and Branch Wraiths can take Lore of the Wilds, and Mages, sorry. So they get this Lore of the Wilds, Lore of Magic. So we'll have a look at that. There is a magic item that you can give to any wizard that allows it to select from the Lore of the Wilds as well. While it controls a special feature, can reroll hits and wounds of 1 during the combat phase, which is pretty cool for like capture the tower sort of battles. But you don't see special features on tables very often, particularly at tournaments. So it would be nice if we saw more of it, to be honest. But so this could be good if we start seeing more special features featuring in games. And then any number of Dryads and Treekin can have ambushes. Treemen and Ancients can have ambushes. So actually leaning into the kind of the Dryad-y, Treekin-y, whatever... which you could do, 3 treemen as ambushers. That's pretty cool. especially if they're kind of war machine heavy. So you're basically going to force them to just not move anything, which gives you freedom to move around the board and stay in cover and keep out of line of sight of all the war machines, maybe. And most of your stuff's skirmishing anyway, so getting hit by a stone thrower that can fire, indirectly is neither here nor there. So there is a kind of a tactical game there, and I think the Treekin stuff is pretty cool. This is let's go back and do the law of magic that you get with this. The signature spell is reroll sixes to hit in shooting, which is okay. It's the caster and the unit they've joined, so you can't hide behind units. You've got to be in a unit to use that, which is a bit of a downside. You've got this magic missile, which is sort of 3 strength, 6 hits, AP2, and multiple wounds 2. That's very good, I think. Remember my logic of seeing whether a magic missile is any good. Essentially, you've got you've got number of hits, you've got strength, and you've got AP. Most magic missiles tend to be 18 inches, to be honest. Anyway, so what you typically find in an average magic missile is one of them is low, one of them is medium, and one of them is high. So here we've got high strength and high AP, right? And a fairly low number of hits. It's a low number of hits, but high strength, high AP. So actually, I'd say it's an above average magic missile overall. It is cast on a 10 though, which does mean it's not the easiest to get off. Which also means it's not the easiest to dispel either. So I think it's good for throwing at dragons, maybe. It gives you a bit of extra anti-dragon play, which Wood Elves do struggle with a little bit. Ariel's... Because the reason I talk about anti-dragon is if you want to win a tournament, right, there's 3 lists that you're going to have to there's 3 problems that you're going to have to solve to win a tournament. The first one is, how do you deal with somebody who's got lots of monsters? So, how do you deal with that? Particularly the Khemri list, where there's 3 Necrosphinx and 1 or maybe even 2 dragons. How do you deal with that, right? You've got to have an answer to that somehow. And that means you've got 2 character dragons, which are going to be really difficult to kill. But you've also got 3 other sort of dragons or dragon type, toughness 6, 6 wounds, 5 up save, 5 up regen things that you've got to deal with. So they're not going to be easy to take down either. But you've got to have an answer to that. You've got to have an answer to a big block of poison attacks archers with other stuff that is also quite deadly. There's quite a few lists that do that. Goblins are the best at that, but you could go skinks. You could look at Skaven can pump out a lot of poison attacks, but they're generally rubbish otherwise, so it's not that much of a threat. There's another faction. They could pump out. Khemri, of course, can also do that. So, in fact, you could have that list with a load of poisoned attacks archers. I think I've seen that, and that's another big problem for you to deal with. What's the third problem? Oh, something like a war machine heavy, like Empire or Dwarf list. Those are particularly problematic. They don't win tournaments, those artillery heavy lists, but they do screw over some people. Well, I say they don't win tournaments. I think there's a couple of Empire players that have gone with a gun line and won stuff. But anyway, back to the spells. Ariel's Blessing, regen 5, range 10, decent enchantment, easy to cast, easy-ish to cast. So, and regen 5 is really good for Wood Elves because they need all the saves they can get due to having almost no armor or defenses against anything, which is the defense is running away. You got Spiteful Torrent, which is a magical vortex. It moves randomly. You don't get to choose. Does 3d6, a high number of hits, a low strength, and a medium AP. So that's an average. That's an average. Although 15-inch, you know, that's pretty decent. You got Sapping Blight, which is a hex, 12-inch range, casts relatively easily, minus D3 to strength, and can target enemy units in combat. This is class. Like, this gives you an answer to dragons, because if you can get, you know, Matey Boy to charge in his Mega Dragon and like a Necrosphinx into your dragon and cast that on the Mega Dragon thing, you're not dying ever. Hidden Pathways. Target unit gets reserve move and may perform a quick turn, even if it would not normally be able to do so. I don't really see where you might use that, to be honest. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, you could use it on Wild Riders, maybe, but like, it's really difficult to see like where you'd actually like use that sort of ability within the whole list, to be honest.
During every start of turns.
I don't know. I'll shush you. Right, and then Dirthu's Wrath. 10, not easy to cast. Each model in the fighting rank of a unit the caster engaged with immediately take initiative test. Suffers D3 strength for hits, no armor saves, but can have ward and regen. Now, this one is sort of good. If you're up against, say, for instance, orcs, then they're initiative 2. You charge your, like, I don't know, Treeman Ancient or whatever into combat. You can maybe get into combat with, I think, it's the fighting rank, isn't it? So, like, let's say there's 5 in the fighting rank, 3 are going to fail. That's like 6 hits, 3 wound, 3 dead orcs for 1 spell. That's not bad. That could be 3 dead black orcs, of course, as well, that's pretty good for just 1 spell. Then how else to think about this? If you charge into a big unit of High Elf Spears, which might have a frontage of like 7 or 8, maybe they fail 1 or 2, and that kills 2 or 3 High Elves. Chaos Warriors is less effective against because they've actually got reasonably high initiative. So you might have a fighting rank of 5, like 2 might fail. So you might kill 2 Chaos Warriors or Chosen. It's a bit of a kind of an ability that offers some counterplay to Line Hammer, because if you think, you know, if you've got that dwarf unit with like 15 width that's playing that whole Line Hammer game, like that's going to get absolutely rinsed by this ability, because if you think 15 of them, like they're initiative 2, 10 are going to fail, that's 20 hits, that's 10 wounds, probably no armor saves. That's really, really ridiculously nasty. So it's got some play, I think. Dirthu's Wrath is, I think, my favourite assailant that I've seen. I really like that because it offers an ability to counterplay that whole. So, I mean, as a spell lore, it's okay. There's nothing in it that seems totally broken, to be honest. It seems unnecessary. I think that's my main bit of feedback here. It just seems like an unnecessary spell lore. Like, we didn't need it. We've already got some decent spell lores. This doesn't add anything. You know, if you right, let's minimize it, because if you know, so elementalism, which is kind of what the Wood Elf lore's like supposed to be, you know, -1 movement and initiative, okay, I mean, minus D3 strength is better. You got an assailant that's D6 +1 strength 3, no AP. That Rage of Dirthu is obviously better. Plague of Rust is one of the best spells in the game and is really critical for Wood Elves in order to enhance their output. So I don't know why you'd take that spell law over one that's got Plague of Rust in. Summon Elemental Spirit is a bit of dangerous terrain that moves and does hits and blocks line of sight, which is pretty useful. You got Earthen Ramparts, which is your 5 at ward save, and counts as being behind a defended low linear obstacle if charged, which means your opponent doesn't get rank bonuses, and does it get something else? Do they not get their initiative bonus? Anyway, whatever. But it's basically if you look at the other one's a 5 at regen. Well, actually, 5 at ward is better than 5 at regen because there's almost nothing that negates ward saves, apart from some really rare, magic items like the Blade of Zunki and stuff like that. So there's, it's really rare to see something negate ward saves. It's not equally rare to see stuff negate regen because Killing Blow and I think Cleaving Blow does as well, but I can't remember. Negates regen. Also, like the other problem with regen, especially with Forest Spirits, is they're flammable, so flaming attacks stop them from regenerating. Whereas a ward save, there's almost nothing that negates a ward save. And also, if you make a regen save in combat, that wound or wounds still counts to combat resolution, whereas this 5 at ward save doesn't. The benefit of the regen spell is, of course, you can charge with it, whereas this Earthen Ramparts you cannot. So this restricts your movement, which, movement's one of the key things for Wood Elves, so maybe regen might be better, but it seems on par at least. Wind Blast, you can make a unit give ground after hitting them with a magic missile, which has a medium high strength, medium AP, so again, above average. 15-inch range though, but still, you can make them give ground, which is pretty cool. And then Travel Mystical Pathway, you can essentially take a character out of combat and put it somewhere. Target friendly unit, and has not moved. No, wrong spell. You can move the whole unit, replace it anywhere. Now remember, like if you've got a unit, right? Let's say that's a unit. You could move it from here to like here, as long as the distance between like these two corners is 12 inches, because it's still within 12. The concept of wholly within doesn't exist in the old world, so it just has to be within 12. So you can move a unit a huge distance with that, and I think that that is way more useful, especially combined with Earthen Ramparts, because you can Earthen Ramparts a unit up and then use Travel Mystical Pathway to move it a huge distance. So I just don't see how that law that they've introduced is really doing anything above elementalism. It's a bit like the law of trolls. Like, it's sort of interesting and it's flavorful, but like it doesn't really do anything for me competitively. It doesn't get me really excited. Apart from Dirthu's Wrath, that does get me quite excited. But let's finish off the Talzin stuff. So we've got the Wardens of Talzin. Now, these are a bit like the Wood Elf equivalent of like Exalted Champions. So not aspiring champions, but these are the equivalent of like Exalted Champions. So they can be Battle Standard Bearers in a Talzin list, which is great because they've got 3 wounds. So it's an extra wound. They are basically a Lord level character because they've got Strike First as well. They've got 4 attacks, which is pretty decent. In fact, their stat line is in general just pretty decent. They've got the parry ability, which is basically if you give them a shield and a spear or a hand weapon, they get +1 to save in combat, which is pretty much like the old Sword and Board from maybe 8th. I can't remember. And then they've got this: if they're in the unit of Guardians, they're immune to psychology. If they don't, then they're not. The unit becomes immune to psychology, but when they leave, the unit doesn't, basically. So they can boost up some Guardians. Guardians are an interesting concept. We'll have a look at that in a sec. And then they've got parry, and I think that's their abilities. Yeah. Then you've got... Where is he? There's the Guardians. Where did they do the character?
Here's obviously toughness 3, strength 4.
Right. He's sort of a he's a Glade Lord. Okay, he's a Glade Lord. So he's got Rallying Cry. So he's slightly different to a Garden of Talzin. He's got Rallying Cry. He's got this Scar in the Eye Thief thing. He ignores modifiers to his leadership characteristic, which is 10 because he's a Lord. He's got Strike First. He's got a 5 at Ward, which is okay. He's evasive, favour of the Goddess, all that. So he's got this bird thing that you roll a dice during the command sub phase. On a 1 to 2, nothing happens. On a 3 or more, a single enemy model within 18 inches takes a strength 4 AP 1 hit. And if they suffer an unsafe wound, the weapon skill are reduced by D3 and initiative are reduced by D3 for the remainder of the game. Which sounds pretty good. I think it's situational. It's quite cool though. The idea of this bird coming down and nicking somebody's eye. It's pretty cool, but I don't know. It doesn't seem massively reliable. So characterful, but not really worth it. I don't think in a competitive sense. Guardians of Talzin, this is what the Warden could go in and make them immune to psychology. They're already stubborn veterans with leadership 9, so yeah, it's a slight upgrade. They've got parry and spears and hand weapon and light armor. You have to pay for them to have shields for some reason, which makes them 19 points, which is quite expensive for foot infantry that's toughness 3 and has a save of 5 up against shooting. They do have move through cover. The Wood Elf list would work perfectly if the entire board was a wood. Like, they'd be really decent then. But it's not. So, tough. They've got the usual martial prowess, so they can supporting attacks. They've got the Asteroid Spears, which are basically thrusting spears with AP 1. So they get the initiative bonus, but only in the front, despite the fact they can fight in the side and rear and make supporting attacks. And they've got 2 attacks each. However, those attacks are at strength 3, AP 1. So, not the best in the world. I'd like to have seen them go to strength 4, to be honest, because that would make them probably worth taking. I'd pay 20 points for them to be strength 4 with shields. I think strength 3 shields. They do get a lot of attacks off, and they are AP 1, but like, it's difficult to see where you're going to get value out of this, other than maybe throwing it into a unit of skeletons. It'd do alright against them, but then again, so would any decent infantry. So I'm not sure where the value's being added here. And that's the Talzin stuff. There's not a lot really. That's the host of Talzin. Let's have a look at Orion's Wild Hunt. So you're allowed a Glade Lord, you're allowed a Shadow Dancer, Spell Singer, Waystalker. Isn't it the Spell Weaver that's the level 4? Spell Weaver, right. So you can't have the level 4 Wizard, but you can have lower level Wizard there. Shadow Dancer can be a Wizard as
Simultaneously.
well. Yes. And some Glade Captains. So, okay. Okay. You're allowed 0 to 1 wild. So the percentages are your pretty typical half characters, quarter rare, quarter core, must be at least quarter core, up to a quarter, and up to half special. You're allowed 0 to 1 wild riders per 1,000 points in your core section. you probably don't need me to tell you that that's basically 2 units of Wild Riders, because they're quite expensive. So, you know, if you wanted to stack out your Wild Rider allocation, that's 300 points for that. And then if you wanted to give it, I don't know, a banner, or give it a cheap and dirty banner, and then let's say there's some kind of thing that, I don't know, that the character can take. There we go, and then let's reduce it to 8. There we go, and then duplicate that, and there you go. You got 500 and odd points of core stuff that's pretty decent. Obviously not with those banners and weapons. It's just, you know, giving you an indication of how many points that is. So, you know, Wild Riders can pretty much be your core. There is an ability to give Glade Riders Furious Charge and Impetuous for 10 points for the unit. I think that's a possible option if you wanted to do something like this, and you pretty much have to give them shields, and there was a magic banner that I'd give them as well. So that's another, you know, is it really worth it? Like, I'd rather just have 10 Wild Riders out of those 2, because they're better. They've got the same spears. Oh no, hold on, they're the Wild Riders. Oh no, I've just made... I'm an idiot. I am an idiot sometimes. Right, get away. Go away now. Oh, because they're core, you pillock. Right, let's do that. And there was a banner, wasn't there? That was quite expensive, that one. Just give them... And I guess you can give them all that as well. Stuff as well. So... yeah, ambushes is pretty good. And then... I want the ones with quick shot. Yeah, that's the one. Truth light, I want the ones with quick shot. Right, cool. So you could... So that's 268... or 8 Wild Riders, 10 Glade, but these can come on in ambush, and there'll be 278. So actually, maybe you'd do that. Maybe I'd do that. I don't know, because you can have unlimited Wild Riders in there anyway. You can have Sisters of the Thorn. You can have basically 2 units of those. So you probably have 2 units of those, because you can have 1 per 1,000. And then you're allowed other stuff. Wood Elf Beast Packs we'll have a look at in a minute. They're pretty rubbish, but sort of cool. What special rules do you get? So, Nobles can have talismanic tattoos for 10 points. I mean, yeah, I guess. Then here we go. 0 to 1 unit Glade Riders. Oh, it's per 1,000 points, sorry. 0 to 1 unit Glade Riders, Warhawk Riders, or Wood Elf Beast Packs get Furious Charge. I'm not sure you'd want to do it with the Warhawk Riders, because it's only the Riders, and so it's basically 3 extra attacks for 10 points. I mean, I guess it's probably worth it. Actually, to be fair, it's probably worth it. Craft Spears. Strength 4, AP 1 on the charge. Oh, that's the other problem, isn't it? These are strength 3, and then what? Cav Spears make them strength 4, AP 1 on the charge, which isn't the best, is it? Whereas these guys are strength 6, AP 2 on the charge. So, yeah, maybe you just do 1 rather than go for 2. I don't know. That's what I'm talking about. There's a Furious Charge thing. This is cool, though. Worthy of Kurnos. So, after the first turn, after deployment, but before first turn begins, nominate a single enemy character or model whose troop type... Single enemy character or a single enemy model whose troop type is monster. Now, that comma there is called an Oxford comma. It comes at the end of a list. Now, this list only has 2 items, but it comes at the end of a list. Now, what that means grammatically is you nominate a single enemy character. That's 1 item on the list. The other item on the list is a single enemy model whose troop type is monster. What this is not saying, and I'm sure you'll see some people saying, does that mean the character has to be a monster? No, it doesn't, because there's a comma there. If there wasn't a comma there, it would be a character or model whose troop type is monster, right? In fact, if it was character or model whose troop type is monster, the comma should be here. So because they've put the comma there, that means it's a character, or any model with monster, right? So that's your... That's actually pretty cool, because it gives you a bit of play against those factions that have, like, really nasty... Like the list I mentioned with the Necro Sphinx, whatever the things are called. And Double Dragon, whatever. Because you can nominate one of the Necrosphinx, and then what your opponent's probably going to do is just keep it at the back, because they know you're going to get another
Warhol
100
Riders
victory
or
points if you kill it. And also, you're re-rolling hits of 1 in shooting and combat against that unit. So you're quite likely to kill it. So that gives you a bit of play. The cool thing is, though, I can't... Oh, hold on. Is he there? Oh. I can't... To be honest, I can't find the box that says where you can take him. I'm assuming there's a box down there that says any army list can take him as a single Orion or whatever. Oh, actually, no. Does it say at the top there? Oh, yeah. Using any army composition list. He must be... He's a character. Okay, he's a character. He's just a character. He's just Orion. He's not a lord or anything like that. He's just an Orion. Right. So Orion has movement 9, which is pretty good. He doesn't have Swift Stride, though, which is pretty shit. So he's got a maximum threat range of 15 inches, which again is quite long, but it's not as long as any cavalry. So he's slower than all cavalry, which is doesn't really meet with the law. I'd have given him Swift Stride, to be honest. But anyway, whatever. He's 455 points for toughness 5. Let's have a look at what he's got. He's got the Cloak of Isha, Hawk's Talon, Horn of the Wild Hunt, Spear of Kurnos. Hounds are ethereal. Spectral hounds. They're not ethereal, because that would mean that Orion would have to be ethereal because of how they've written the ethereal rules, in that a non-ethereal character can't join an ethereal unit, and vice versa. So you got to be ethereal to join an ethereal unit, right? So what they've done is they've made the Spectral Hounds here. They're basically ethereal, but the Spectral Hounds rule means they can't be damaged by non-magical attacks. So they are ethereal, but they're not. It's all unbreakable, which is pretty cool, I think. And you can't combat res him off. He doesn't take wounds to combat res. So once he's in combat, that's it. You got to kill him. He's got frenzy, so he's got 6 attacks until he loses a round of combat, and then he's only got 5. But he's immune to psychology and unbreakable anyway. So frenzy just sort of a bit annoying. He's got move through cover, magic res 2, which is all right actually. He's got D3 plus 2 strong stomp attacks at strength 5, but 0 AP because he's not a behemoth, so he doesn't get thunder stomps. So just D3 plus 2 strength 5, no AP attacks at the end of combat, which is okay, but not as good as if he was a behemoth. Obviously, there's none of these rules give him AP on his stomps, which is super shit. And the Hounds of Orion can only bestow magical attacks. For some reason we've skipped. Okay, the Cloak of Isha gives him a 5-up ward save. You will note, and this is possibly one of the shittest things about him, he has no armor save other than that. Like, you read that, I've read this bit so many times. No armor save. Literally the only save he's got is a 5-up ward save. That is dog shit. In addition, during each of your start of turn sub phases on a 5-up, he recovers a single wound lost earlier in the battle. Now, I say that's dog shit because he's got 2 dogs that can only be harmed by magical attacks, right? And because of how you allocate, for instance, missile shooting, basically 2/3 of missile shots just get ignored. Magic missile, but the flip side to that is a magic missile, a fireball takes out the hounds. So it's a bit frustrating, but it's not difficult to get to get around. Yeah, they got magic res too, but I mean, you should be able to cast a magic missile to kill the dogs, and then you can hit him with all your other stuff. The other real stupid thing is, should this unit be reduced to a single model, it remains in an open order formation. Yes, that's right. Orion is the only character in the entirety of the old world that when he's on his own doesn't form a skirmisher and still has a charge arc. So you've still got to maneuver with him and faff about as if he's an open order unit, rather than why Orion, a movement 9 character, has less of a turn circle than like a Nurgle character on a frog. I have no idea, but that's how they've written it, so that's good, and hopefully gets FAQ'd, because that's stupid. On a 5-up, he recovers a single wound lost earlier in the battle. This is also dog shit, and I'll tell you why. He's not going to get wounded in the first turn, right? Unlikely. I think we'd agree. Second turn, he might get wounded, maybe. And then you've got like 3 start of turn sub phases, maybe, to recover stuff. You might recover 1 wound over the whole battle. So he might recover a single wound the entire battle. I'd rather Cloak of Isha gave him a 2-up ward against losing his last wound. Something like that would have been way better. Horn of the Wild Hunt. So he may sound the horn. He's not a behemoth, so his command range is only 12 inches, not 18. Everybody gets frenzy, even if they've lost it earlier. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Sort of, because the main damage dealer in your army are your Wild Riders. They've already got Frenzy, and the problem is that they're not going to get a chance to regain it later through this ability, because Wild Riders either delete the thing that they've charged or they get deleted, right? There's no middle ground with those chaps. It could be useful for Sisters, giving them Frenzy and giving them an extra attack, but they've only got they have got poison attacks, I guess. So, bumping up their attacks a bit could be quite good. Yeah, I mean, you could frenzy something that's got furious charge, like the War Beasts. You could get them up to basically having an extra 2 attacks. So I can see this having a bit of play. It's not worth 450 points though. He's got 2 weapons. He's got the Hawk's Talon, which is a 30-inch magic weapon, a 30-inch magic missile weapon, which does D3 plus 1 multiple shots. He's only ballistic skill 6, I believe. I say only. He is ballistic skill 6, which is quite high, but still. So you multiple shots. The thing is, you're probably not going to use this at short range, because then you can use the Spear of Kurnos, which has a shorter range, and you can only use one missile weapon a turn per character. And this will hit at strength 6, AP 2, and when it shoots like a bolt thrower, so it gets the 3 and 3 rule, which is, pretty good considering it's AP 2, multiple wounds, T3. So you're almost certainly only going to use the Hawk's Talon at long range for the multiple shots, strength 5, AP 1, and as soon as somebody gets close, you're probably going to switch to the spear and start chucking that instead. Again, I'd rather he just put the spear at 30 and, did something else with the Hawk's Talon, but whatever. God, is he worth 455 points? I just genuinely don't think so. I think that's way too expensive. I just don't know how they've pointed him. Like, I don't know how he. The weird thing is, I really struggle to see him actually surviving to get into combat. I guess unless he loiters around the rest of the army and he comes in at the end, but finishes stuff off. But even then, he's only hitting at strength 6, AP 2, and his weapon's got basically nothing special about it. It's multiple wounds D3, but it's strength 6 I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess he's kind of in combat got an ogre blade, and at range he's got like a bolt thrower, and then he's got a longer thing. So all of this does add up to like maybe, I don't know, 100 points of magic item. That's 35, 40 maybe. So you got the Spear of Kurnos. The combat version's probably worth, I don't know, 60. The range version's worth 30, so that's 90. Hawk's Talon's worth probably 25, so that's 115. Cloak is worth 35, so that's 150. And then this horn, that's probably worth another 40 points. That's 190 of magic items, which means 365 for all of that. No. I just can't get over how unsurvivable he is. Like, he's got no armour. Nothing. No armour. He's got... Oh. What have I done that for? Idiot. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't think he's much good, to be honest. Cool. Well, it was a cool model at the time. Nowadays, probably not. Right. Beast Pack. Beast Keepers. Beast Pack. And then we'll go back to the thing at the start, which is the Virtues, or whatever the hell they were called. Right. So you're allowed to take unlimited numbers of Beast Keepers. The whole unit's got to be the same beast, though. So you can, essentially, you can take 5 Beast Keepers and 15 Deepwood Hounds, or 5 Deepwood Hounds. You can't have 5 Beast Riders, 3 Hounds, 3 Cats, 3 Boars, 2 Bears. You can't mix these things. They've all got to be the same. So it's got to be a unit of Boars, Cats, Hounds, or Bears with some Beast Keepers, right? The Run with the Pack skill is really cool because it means you can the movement characteristic of the unit is essentially the most common movement characteristic. So these guys will keep up if they have to, which is so much better than the Chaos Warrior War Beast thing, because if you give a handler to some Warhounds, then you go down to the handler's movement. Which is rubbish, because it's not worth giving them like leadership 7 instead of 5, or 8 instead of 6, or whatever it is, for the loss of 2 movement characteristic. They've got hand weapon light armor. They're pointless, basically. They don't do anything. It's all down to the beasts. Now the beasts. So hounds, you got movement 9, weapon skill 4. They're basically Chaos Hounds, just with 2 more move and cost 2 more points. Forest Cats are basically Chaos Hounds. 6 points, same points, same stat line. Yeah, same stat line. Apart from they've got +1 initiative. Sylvan Boars are a bit slower, movement 6, low weapon skill. However, they're strength 4, toughness 4, which is pretty cool. And then you've got bears that are 2 wound each, 2 attacks. Now remember, these come in 3s, so you could have 3 boars rather than 1 bear. Or 3 cats, or 3 dogs rather than 1 bear. The hounds have just that. So they're all skirmishers, and because they're war beasts, they're unit strength 1, all of them, including the bear. The bear is unit strength 1 because it's a war beast. That means skirmishers means that they're always -1 to hit and shooting. Even the bears, which is pretty cool. I quite like that. That's quite a nice touch. Forest Cats have Armor Bane on top, which is okay. Again, you could give them Furious Charge by upgrading the unit to have it for 10 points, and you could also give it Frenzy through the Horn of Orion. So you could end up with 3 attacks per Forest Cat, 3 attacks per Hound, 4 per Bear, 3 per Boar. So pretty useful. The Boar has Razor Tusks and Furious. It's already got Furious Charge, so if you're taking Boars, you don't need to pay 10 points because you've already got it. They've got Razor Tusks. I don't think in the video it ever shows you what that is. I'd imagine it's like an impact hit or something. And the Bear of Lauren has an armor save of 6+, and Cleaving Blow. Yeah, which does stop regen. And causes fear as well. Now, downsides, just no armor. So anything shooting at it, you're going to have to hide it in the forest, and you're going to have to skirmish it. What would I go for? To be honest, if you want a cheap screening unit, 2 handlers and 6 dogs, because that's going to cost you. How much is that going to set you back? 11. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's 48 at 22, so it's 70 points, isn't it? So 70 points for a sort of a bit of a screen. I mean, the Chaos Warrior version of that, of 6 dogs, would cost you 36, so it's basically half price. So, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, Leadership 8's pretty good, isn't it? And that guy is not a beast, so he can essentially, so you can transfer your general's leadership to this unit via the Beastkeepers. So, I don't know. Yeah, it can be a rare choice in a normal list if you want this sort of stuff. I mean, again, it's characterful and it's interesting. I'm not sure you're going to see it much competitively, basically because they're not cheap enough. If Forest Cats were like 4 points each, let's say, and Deepwood Hounds were like 5 points, and Boars were like, let's say they're 8 points, and the Bear was like 15, you might see some play, but it's just a bit too expensive, and you can't have like for instance, if you wanted to take a unit of 30 cats, right, that means 10 Beastkeepers. So it's 110 on Beastkeepers and 180 on cats. So you're looking at 290 points for a unit that's got 40 models. Now, compared with the vast majority of stuff in the Wood Elves, that is pretty cheap. So if you want a big block of something, the problem is big blocks don't really go well with the Wood Skirmish because you can kill stuff by charging its extremity such that the rest can't get into combat. So it would be a useful unit for creating cheap screens. However, it's not a useful unit for creating cheap screens because it's a skirmish unit, so you need small units. So you could MSU it. You could take, like, I don't know, 3 units of 9 and get there that way. But I don't know. I don't think it's much cop, to be honest. But I shall take on board other people's comments. Right. Sexy boys. Right. Okay, let's have a look at these kindreds. So these are basically lords and nobles. Then they're in addition to the forest spirit rules, right? Units that have been joined by a character with one of the following aspects cannot use the character's leadership. Right, so kindred you can, aspects are supposed to be better, but you can't use the character's leadership. Right. So you give them aspect to the hound. Any unit they've joined may reroll hit rolls of 1 during the combat phase. That's good. That is good, especially if you wanted to put that on like a lower level character in the Horde of Orion and stick it in a unit of Wild Riders. That's good. Aspect of the bear increases their strength and toughness by 1. No, that doesn't stack with the dragon thing. I don't think it does because it's infantry or cavalry to begin with. I've just noticed that. Obviously, it doesn't because you can't take it if you're on a dragon. But even if it could, I don't think it would because I think the two don't stack, do they? Toughness, I don't know. But anyway, you can't have it on a dragon. I mean, it's pretty cool. But looking at the magic weapons, not that. It's useful, I think, because of the strength bit, because there are some magic bows that require strength that, you know, an extra pip of strength could be pretty cool, especially on a lord who's already strength 4, so strength 5, you know, stuff. Boar AP is just the character, AP 1 extra and impact hits. Bit of a meh, but it is only 10 points, so it's probably worthwhile having. Aspect of the cat, armor bane 1, and may reroll any failed rolls to hit during a challenge. I think that's probably worth taking for 10 points. It's not that much. And then you've got kindreds. So we've got the Magi Kindred, gets a 5+ ward save and Tree Spirit. That's pretty nice for 25 points. It means that you can spend points on other things rather than having to buy the Talisman of Protection. So that's pretty good. Infantry only, character belongs to the Eternal Kindred, and any unit they join, reroll hits of 1 during the combat phase. They may reroll fail to wound any whilst within 6 inches of a special feature. I think, you know, a little character going in a unit of Eternal Guard, like maybe the BSB and a unit of Eternal Guard, something like that, that's pretty good for them. Wild Rider Kindred, you can... Nobles, they get Counter Charge, Frenzy, Furious Charge, Talismanic Tattoos. Again, that's pretty cool. And Scout Kindred gets Quick Shot on Scouts. So it can go in a Scouts unit, basically. And then let's... So they're okay. They're pretty cool. So magic weapons. We've got Vol's Wrath. Vol's Wrath. Strength +1. It's a 32-inch range thing. It's normally just a 32-inch bow, but once per game you can use it as a bolt thrower going through and through. This is the one where, I mean, you know, if you gave a character like +1 strength and toughness, stuck them on, or you'd have to stick them on a Warhawk, wouldn't you? Because that isn't monstrous cavalry. I think a Warhawk makes you what does a Warhawk do to you? Oh, they are monstrous cavalry. Oh, that's annoying. Oh no, hold on. Was that... Sorry, I'm thinking about this. Cavalry. So, yeah, so it is still cavalry. So yeah, you could do it. You could do it. Warhawk or a Great Eagle then, I guess. It can't go on a monster. Is a Great Eagle a monster? I bet a Great Eagle's just a monster, isn't it? So you can't put him on a Great Eagle, I think. Let's just check quick. That's a monster, yeah. So you can't put him on a Great Eagle, but you can put him on a Warhawk. Okay, so you could put a character on a Warhawk and give it this thing, and then get it round to a flank, and then hit it with a Strength 5 AP2 Bolt Thrower, which does multiple wound too. So, you know, imagine getting it around the flank of that Ushabti unit, and, you know, that six thing Ushabti unit, and killing a few of those. That is a lot of points to invest, though, because it's 55 freaking points. If it was a bolt thrower every turn, definitely worth it. Once per game, a bolt thrower, not worth it. just not worth it. Like, AP2 multiple wounds 2 is pretty good, especially if you can stick it on a character with like BS 6 or 7, something like that. That's pretty good. And sticking it on a Warhawk gives you a bit more maneuverability. But then you're talking about spending like 200 odd points on a character to essentially maximise the benefit you're going to get from this. Is it really worth that many points? Is it going to get that 200 points back in a game? Probably not. Daith's Reaper. We've got, it's 40 points, strength 1, AP 1. Enemy models must reroll in successful armour save rolls. I mean, I guess that's useful. But Huntmasters, they're continuing on the tradition of magic weapons being shite. Huntmaster's Pride can only be taken in a wild hunt. Multiple wounds only applies against models who are monstrous infantry, monstrous cavalry, monstrous creature, or behemoth. Not single entity characters then, basically. Strength S, AP2 is okay. Blades of Endless Flame, extra attacks, flaming attacks. That's it. You just get an extra attack that's flaming and magical and a bit of AP, which is okay for 25 points. Enchanted items, Crown of Antlers, you get Armor Bane 1, Impact XD3, which have an AP of 2. You know, again, if you've put that +1 strength thing on a character, he might be strength 5, so D3 strength 5 AP2 impact hits for 35 points. It's pretty good. Sorry, there's a bloke coming to the door. Moonstone of the Hidden Ways may cast Forest Walker from the Law of Athel Lauren, which is one of the signature spells. Law of Athel Lauren. Just leave it and go, would you? Yeah, there we go. He's left it and gone. Okay, so that's cast on... Okay, so you can move it from one woodland wood to another, but it's cast on a 10 and power level 3, so it actually goes off on a 7. Single use, again, though, for 30 points to teleport a non... I think Treeman can do it themselves anyway, can't they? So a non-Treeman character... I mean, okay. I mean, you could use it to, I don't know, hide a dragon at the back and then teleport a dragon, like, over into the other corner where you've put your woods, maybe, for 30 points. But your opponent would be wise to that and would stick a load of stuff around those woods so you couldn't do it. So, I don't know whether that's worth it. It might be. It's, yeah, I guess, maybe. If you've got spare 30 points on a character, yeah. Blight tipped arrows, normal Asarai longbow only. If they suffer an unsaved wound, single use though. Again, if they suffer an unsaved wound, they've got to take a toughness test and can take another wound at the beginning of every other turn that they fail the test. None of these are Asarai longbow. Now, one of the things why is it doing that? I don't want it to do that bloody thing. Play within a player. Now, one of the things I wanted to go away you and let's because so reason I'm faffing a little bit is it that one? That is an Asarai longbow. May re-roll a single failed roll to hit during the shooting phase. So that's an Asarai longbow. Bow of Lauren, that's an Asarai longbow. Number of shooting attacks equal to their attack's characteristic. Cool. So you can go for the poisoned arrows, single use. So does that mean that you get to blight tip arrows? Barrow. Single use arrows that you can fire once. So I've got 6 of them, but I can only fire 1 over the next 3 hours. The other 5 have to stay in the quiver. Anyway, so like, I don't know, maybe you get 4 shots with that. But I don't like the single use bit. I think that's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit dumb. Because it's not going to be, that useful, really, is it? Okay. Did we do the arcane item? Oh, here we go. Arcane item. Once per turn, bearer can re-roll a casting roll. That's all right. 35 points to be on par with the high elf spellcaster that costs exactly the same. That seems fair. Heartwood pendant. They can know spells from the Law of the Wilds as well. So you can roll spells from 2 different laws, which is okay. But Sigil of the Mage Queen, may use it before making a single use again. 25 points, +1, +2 to cast. That is just about better than a Power Scroll, is it? I don't know. Because a Power Scroll, you roll an additional D6, don't you? And you drop the lowest, so you still only end up with 2 dice. But +2 is probably better. I guess you could take both and then play your chances. But for 50 points. 50 points to more or less guarantee getting 2 spells off, though. It's pretty good. Mantle of Rebirth is a suit of light armour. Wearer has regen 5. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. You can do that. You can do Myrkyl's Locust. You can do Talisman of Protection, I think, all. So, regular infantry, heavy infantry only, so not monstrous infantry. Light armour, fly 10, swift stride, can't join a unit. So, you get like. Who is that for? Because swift stride, that's like an aggressive, attacking kind of. I don't know who that's for. Yeah, very odd. Ariel's Favour, Magic Res 2, that's alright. Single use, again, lots of single use stuff here. Bearers Orion's Favour can reroll any fail rolls to hit or wound made during the combat phase. It's like Paymaster's Coin, but wounds as well. So that's actually pretty decent. I quite like that. Magic Banners, you've got the Tapestry of Talzin, only in the army of Talzin. A model carrying the Tapestry of Talzin, command range goes to 18, and friendly units improve their leadership by 1 to a maximum of 10. So, yeah, that's okay. Considering all the modifiers to leadership in the game, I think that's pretty decent. And then you got the Banner of the Wild Hunt, which is 25 points, only in Orion's army. They get +1 combat res and can reroll pursuit rolls, which is alright. Can cast a Swirling Mist spell. We've had a look at these spells. That's the one where you got to reroll 6s to hit in the shooting phase. I think that was cast on an 8, so it makes it pretty reliable, but then, like, whatever. The unit carrying the Banner of Springtide gains Quick Shot. I want it to say and move and shoot, but it doesn't. And that's that.
No armor saves.
According to the leaks here, is that. So, what? Oh, God. How to wrap this up? It's been an hour and 10 already. The spell lore is unnecessary. Because the armor of the lore of elementalism, I think because of Plague of Rust, takes it. I think Travel Mystical Pathway is better than Hidden Pathways. I think the only reason you'd want this lore is for that assailment, because it's pretty nice. Other than that, everything else is a bit meh. Ariel's Blessing is not as good as the other one, the 5 at Ward. Although, conceivably, if you were going to go magic heavy, you could take a wizard with this and a wizard with the other one, 2 level 4s for your army. If you did that, though, there's not a lot in. You wouldn't be able to have a dragon, and therefore you wouldn't be able to have that kind of play. Do Wood Elves need a dragon? Yes, they do. And the reason for that is quite simple, in that they don't really have that many tools to deal with dragons. So they need something that deals with dragons. And, the only thing they've got really that can do that is their own dragon. So you've pretty much got to have your Glade Lord. You're going to put him on a dragon. You're going to give him probably Myrkyl's, or is it? Yeah. Yeah, Myrkyl's Locust, and you're possibly going to go for. Where's the magic items gone? You're possibly going to go for. Can't remember where they talks about the magic items. Is that them? No, they've got spells. That's the thing. Oh, here. So you're probably going to go for that. And are you really going to? Because the Crown of Antlers for the rider, so that doesn't apply. That wouldn't give impact hits to the dragon, which is a bit rubbish. What else are you going to do? I mean, are you going to take any of these? So he can't be any kindred because of the mount. And where's the other ones? The aspect. Probably aspect to the hound. Give the dragon. It's just the. Okay. So he could take aspect to the hound because it's the unit that they've joined as well, which I guess would count the mount. So that might be helpful. Don't know though. And then what would you do with that? You want probably talisman of protection. Oh no, you can't have that because you've already taken a talisman. You're probably still going to take the Spear of Twilight because it always wounds on a 3. So it's like because of Myrkyl's Locus, strength modifiers don't apply to anything. So I don't know whether you do that though, or whether you want like something like, is that the one that's, yeah, Fort Ward save near a woodland feature, which actually there's plenty of spells that allow you to get a woodland feature. So I don't know, it's really difficult to know where to go with wood elves. Like, this is a problem that I had with the high elves. This is another reason why I kind of stopped doing stuff, because I was dead excited about the new high elves, and then they came out and there was nothing even slightly janky with them, and I was like, oh, bloody every single high elf release that Games Workshop have ever done, there's always been something slightly janky that you can lean into and like build an army around this one mechanic that's a bit slightly broken. But there was nothing. I'm like, oh, for God's sakes. Like, there's tons that's broken with Tomb Kings. There's tons that's broken with Bretonnians. And High Elves come out and nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like, the one faction that you can rely on Games Workshop to cock up, they didn't cock up. It's like, oh, buggers. And it seems like they've done the same with the Wood Elves, really. They've done a load of stuff that's characterful, but nothing that actually seemingly makes them that much better. Aside from if you go Talzin and a Forest Spirits army, I think there's play there maybe, but I'm not sure. And I'm not sure how all of this interacts until I've got it all on Old World Builder and I can start building out lists properly. I'm not sure how all the new stuff's going to interact with it. So the Talzin list, is it any good? Hating Beastmen is worthless, pretty much. In addition to they may normally know, so they can pick the Law of Wilds instead of, it's not in addition to. So Wood Elf Mages, Treeman Ancient, so any kind of wizard apart from the Shadow, what the bloody hell is it called? Shadow. It was Shadow Dancer, yeah. Other than Shadow Dancer can take, I'm not sure whether they can take Shadow Dancers. This is pretty not very good because you don't really see special features on tables. Dryads and Treekin and Treeman and Treeman Ancients can be ambushers. So, if you did lean heavily into that, there's literally only your branch wraiths that you'd have to stick on the table, and everything else could be an ambush, which is, pretty interesting as a concept. You don't get any of the new talents and stuff. Well, I guess you could, couldn't you? You could have like a Spellweaver being like the general, and she starts on the table hiding in a wood, cowering. Or behind a wood, anyway. Yeah, and the characters don't massively add a lot. And then you've got the Orions. Stuff, which doesn't have much by way of shooting, basically. So, how to summarise this? It's characterful. I think if you're a dyed-in-the-wool Wood Elf player, you're not going to be disappointed by this. If you love the Wood Elves, you're going to really like the extra stuff that you can do. You're going to really like the forest animals, like as a concept, because that's just great. Like having packs of cats and dogs and pigs and you could get wild boar models. You could get some bears. You can get some lynxes. You can get different types of cats, of course, couldn't you? You get different types of wild dogs models. There's loads and loads of wild animal models out there for all sorts of game systems and model railways and stuff like that. There's tons and tons of stuff out there that you can buy to represent these models, and then you just need a few wood elves to act as run around with hand weapons and sort of guide them to where they need to be. I'm a bit annoyed that Beast Pack handlers don't have bows, because they should, because all elves have bows. But anyway, so you're going to like this as a character for list. The Talzin one, I think, is supposed to be a bit more functional and is supposed to be a bit more competitive, because the army, this one is not. Even if you stuffed your entire army with Wild Riders, that would be a bit scary until you got halfway through it. So if I came up against an army which would have what would stuffing it look like? There'd probably be 6 units of 5 of them. And that looks quite scary, but then once you've got through half the army, the other half, because 6 of them, it's basically 6 magic missiles from being wiped. So, it's not that bad. They've only got 5 up armor save. They've only got a toughness 3. Hit them with a fireball, and then they go down really quickly. So if you were going to do that, you'd need to take lots of magic res stuff, I guess, to make them a bit better. So you could have 3 units of 10, give them all that magic res 2 item to the champion. A few characters, maybe Orion, maybe not. But then they're just glass cannons. They just die so quickly. Sisters, meh. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know where I am with this. I mean, I like the character of Orion. And if I know my friend Dave in particular is going to be very happy with this army of infantry, because this, I think, is exactly what he wants to lean into. Loads of wild riders, no forest spirits at all, Dave. You'll be happy with that. So I'm sure that's the sort of thing that people who've been lifetime Wood Elf players, they'll be absolutely creaming about this. The Talzin stuff, that I think that's supposed to be a bit more I don't know, because if it's designed to be competitive, why hating Beastmen? I don't know. And then, Eternal Guard instead of Glade Guard. But you can go Forest Spirits, which is quite cool. So you could go for a Forest Spirit army and lean into this. And I think that's probably where it gets play, because you give everybody ambushes. So essentially you start off with 1 unit on the table and a character. And your opponent's like, holy fuck. Oh my god. I've got to flood the edges of the board. And just, where are they going to come from? That kind of panic. But then the problem with doing that is that once you start bringing in units piecemeal, then you either bring them on your side where you're miles away from anything and then they get shot to shit, or you bring them on sort of piecemeal near them and then they get engaged in combat 1 unit at a time and just die really quickly. So I don't know about that, to be honest. I don't know whether it's interesting, because if you look at the high elf list that have been doing well recently, they're all well, they're not all, but they're mostly Grand Army composition, where people have used a few of the units out of the new stuff, but generally speaking, the Arcane Journal for High Elves did nothing to the competitive meta. Like you see the lists in there because people want to have a go, but you don't really see them doing very well, especially at 5-game tournaments. A few 3-gamers you do, but so yeah, it's I don't know what to make of it really. I think if you like your Wood Elves, buy it. It'll be cool. There'll be some reference. There'll be a bit at the beginning that will sort of bring you back to 1272 or whenever this is supposed to be, 2272, I think, something like that. So it'll bring you back to what the Wood Elves are doing at the time. It's good for lore. There's some characterful units in there. I actually quite like the woodland creatures, like as a concept sort of thing. I think that's quite cool. I want a unit of dogs, but they're useless dogs. I want a unit of dogs. I like dogs. I quite like cats as well. Pigs are okay. Bears, not really had much to do with bears. Would rather not have much to do with bears. They look quite, dangerous in general. So I think they can stay over there. But dogs and cats, I love those. Pigs, they're okay. They're once they get big, they're a bit difficult. But yeah. Anyway, I'm waffling now. It's highly unusual for me to waffle. Right. So I don't know. What am I going to give this out of 10? It's not crap. It's not below a 5. It's not like they've done the Wood Elves a disservice. They've not done something which takes away from Wood Elves. They've also not addressed the problems that the Wood Elves have in terms of a competitive balance. In that, what the Wood Elves need is either the ability to lay down more forest that they can hide in and around, or alternately, they needed the ability, right? What they really needed was like a super version of move through cover, and that super version of move through cover basically changes the rules for them as to how they charge through cover. Because the problem with move through cover is, yes, you don't get the -1, but that doesn't matter, because the main problem with charging through cover is you roll 2d6 and you take the lowest rather than the highest, right? So you take the lowest. So your chances of getting a 6 on 2d6 and taking the highest are it's getting on for 1 in 3, right? Your chances, therefore, of getting a 1 the other way is also about a 1 in 3. Your chances of getting a 4 or more on 2 dice, taking the highest, is almost a 2+. Like, it's nearly guaranteed. So therefore, your chance of getting a 1 to 3 is almost nearly guaranteed, 2 dice taking that. So do you see what I mean in terms of like the difference between, you go from like a 1 in 3 chance to get 6 to an almost guaranteed you're going to get less than 4. Which, that's like, it basically takes 2 or 3 inches off your chart. So if they'd have said that move through cover allows you to, I think that would benefit a lot of high elf players, because a lot of high elf players have move through cover stuff, and B, it would universally uplift all of the Wood Elves and make them so much better and make them as good as they should be. And I think they should do the same for Beastmen, to be honest, because that would remove some problems that the Beastmen have, particularly for kind of the more mundane units, like Gores and Ungores. Like, you just don't see them doing anything other than being MSU meat shields, and I'd like to see them being a bit more impactful than that. I'd like to see big hordes of Gores just roaming across the table to deal with. That would be cool and characterful. And also, if you can make that competitive, that would be great. But this, I don't know. Oh, Eternal Guard. That's what I was going to look at. What's the sitch with Eternal Guard? What have they got? Stubborn, drilled, veteran, move through cover, martial prowess. They got spears. They got weapon skill 5, which is quite high. Again, move through cover. The whole of the Wood Elf army just needs to be in a wood, unsurprisingly. How many points are they each? 13 points each. That's actually a really good comparison because these Talzin Guard are 18 points. There they are. So they've got close order, drilled. Oh, that's not very good, is it? That's not going to be very good on mobile screens. I won't do that. So what have they got? So we've got Eternal Guard have stubborn already. They can have shields, drilled, and veteran. Right, let's give them all that, and that makes them 16 points a model. Right. So they're both weapon skill 5 BS4, 33141, 33142. So the Guardians of Talzin have an extra attack. Leadership 9. I think they were. The Eternal Guard are also leadership 9. Take a magic banner up to 50. Both of them can. Close order drilled, elven reflexes. So we got close order drilled, elven reflexes, martial prowess, move through cover, parry. Oh, they haven't got that. Stubborn and veteran. Have they got drilled? They have got drilled. What else? Shields. Okay. Actually, yeah, Guardians of Talzin are definitely an upgrade on Eternal Guard. However, they're a special choice. So they're an upgrade on Eternal Guard, but you can't take them. Why didn't you just have 1+ unit of Guardians of Talzin? Like, honestly. Because they're basically Eternal Guard, but painted differently. Like, what? So if you want... they're not, though, are they? They're not an upgrade because they're a special choice. And you're up against Sisters of the Thorn and Treekin. Treekin are really good. I don't get why people don't take them more. Like, they've got Tree Whack, and they've got 2 other attacks as well. And they've got Stomps, right? And they've got Armor Bane too, which counts on the Stomps, remember. They've got heavy armor. They've got 5 up regen on top. They've got toughness 5 and 3 wounds. They're actually quite tough to kill. And the monstrous infantry with move through cover. So you can just, hide a little unit of 2 of them in a wood and just keep wood hopping or cover hopping up and down the table. And then you've got 100 points of Mega Killy Death to, kill some like screens with and stuff like that. And even if they do get charged by a unit of cavalry, like, they still probably won't die. So I quite like Treekin. Anyway, so yeah, I think out of 10, it's definitely an improvement from flavour only. So I think I'll give it like a 6 out of 10, maybe a 7, because maybe a 7 on grounds that they haven't actually cocked up anything. They haven't made Wood Elves worse than they are. Yes. So, actually, no. I'll give it a 6. It feels very much like the Warriors of Chaos. The Warriors of Chaos Arcane Journal, in that, it adds some stuff. It adds a bit of flavour. It adds a bit of character. It doesn't add much by way of competitiveness. Like, skin walls are cool. Forest beasties are cool. They've brought back Orion. Orion's a big deal. He's the first, big deal that they've brought back to the World of War. No, Galrauch, I guess, was a big deal as well. And Galrauch, I thought, was done quite sensibly. They've brought back Orion, who's Galrauch is like a peripheral character, though. He's not like a main character in the lore. Whereas Orion is a pretty main character, and they brought him back, and they brought him back shit. I've really done him a disservice, I think.
Never mind. Please continue.
Just because leadership 11 now. Monstrous infantry. Okay. Named character Orion Ward.
Anyway, I was thinking, toying with just playing what they said about it, but go and watch their video. They've got some interesting takes on it, and I'm not going to tell you what they are. Right. So yeah, that's the Wood Elves. I really wanted a Wood Elf army, but now I don't. And this is what happened with High Elves as well. Because I read the book and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to buy High Elves now. They've not really made anything that I like cool. In fact, they've made all the stuff that I don't. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now. I've gone on for an hour and a half. That's long enough to waffle on about somebody else's hour and a half video. I hope you found that useful. If you have, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Well, good for me anyway. And catch you around soon. Toodaloo.